Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. And today we're going to dive into Intersect. So it's a name that lots of you might have heard, or this body that has some think it's replaced IOG or replaced the foundation, or where it actually fits. And I've lots of questions myself. So we're going to get into it. And in this one, Jack's going to take us through what it is and give us a good overview. Maybe we'll do a deep dive another day to look at some of the individual aspects, because it really is massive when you start to get into it. But Jack, thanks very much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. And if you want to give an introduction to yourself, and then we'll get into Intersect and everything there.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thanks for finding the time for me too. So yeah, all good. Yeah, I'm Jack. I'm the director here at Intersect. I'm sort of focused on ecosystem, marketing, communications, but broadly speaking, across a lot of the different initiatives at Intersect and helping members essentially make the most out of it. So maybe stepping back, yeah, what is Intersect? So we're a member-based organization, a not-for-profit organization established in Wyoming as of last year, December the 8th was when we were incorporated. And we're really a member-based organization to help orchestrate and facilitate the future development of Cardano. And what does that look like from a infrastructure perspective? So on the core stack, but also what does it look like on-chain governance, and then also, broadly speaking, product as a sort of theme for Cardano as the core Cardano, essentially. And what does that look like in 2025 and beyond? So how we're doing that is essentially members doing the work, members shaping the plans, ideating the future, and then also delivering that future. So what's really quite exciting about how we're trying to organize this. So I'll give you sort of an example. This year's been pretty full on, and we've been focused on three areas. One is supporting Cardano's on-chain governance, which is, as you know, like been a huge thing this year. We hard forked it on September the 1st into Chang, the first upgrade, bringing on-chain decision making to mainnet, which was super exciting, massive milestone. And members themselves have done that sort of work. So, for example, we had a hard fork working group established a few months ago at Intersect, full of members, about 50 or so people, part of that working group, spreading across IOG, the CF, Emergo, but also way beyond that into other SBOs, dApps, and a bunch of other contributors joining that hard fork working group to make sure that we were sort of ready as an ecosystem to upgrade into Chang as of September the 1st. So that was an example of how Intersect was able to help facilitate and orchestrate this in a moving into that new world, right? Where, like you said earlier, we can't point anymore at the pioneer entities that started Cardano or any sort of specific organization to do this anymore. It's sort of up to us now in this new decentralized on-chain decision-making world. So that's one of our big focuses, supporting on-chain governance. So not just is it with the hard fork, but it's also the constitution. And we're doing lots of workshops there, as I think you probably know as well, 63 workshops around the world, and Intersect is funding those workshops and channeling the materials and the essentially making sure they happen and helping hosts deliver that. And then that ends up in Buenos Aires in December to be finally ratified by the 63 delegates from those individual workshops. We'll hopefully sign that constitution in Buenos Aires, and then that goes on chain. And we'll support this whole process. So members, me as a professional staff member at Intersect, really I'm here to sort of sit on the edges and just help join dots and connect people and enable the initiatives to happen. So it's very much a sort of people role, like a stakeholder management type thing that we do as Intersect's professional staff. Really, members are doing all of the work. 90% of the work is being done by members directly, which is what makes this job really exciting and makes this new world we're moving into super exciting, but also hard because we haven't had to do this before. Really, we could always lean on the pioneer entities to do the heavy lifting. And don't get me wrong, though. I mean, they're still very much part of it because they are valued members. They're all members of Intersect, all three pioneer entities, and that is a big thing for sort of unity and just doing this thing together, but in an open environment now, where it's not just those three that you look at. It's actually a bunch of others. And actually, truth be told, Cardano's network and protocol has been developed by about 12 partners historically for the last 2 or 3 years. People like Tweeg, Galois, Well-Typed, M Labs. I'm going to miss some, so apologies to the other 9 or also other builders. But they've been doing it via IOG. So IOG, of course, have that engineering contract to develop and finish sort of Cardano with the eras that we know for the last sort of 6 or 7 years. But they've been working with partners, right, to help do that. It's not just been IOG. But now we can do this in an open way. So we've got a continuity. We've been calling it Cardano continuity, which is other members doing the work alongside IOG and other entities. And we've been opening this up now. So you can see the continuity reports on our knowledge base, and you can see how these members are contracted to do certain work. And this will play true into 2025. So this is the other part of what we're doing in Intersect. So it's not just supporting Cardano's on-chain governance, it's what does next year hold? You know, we're looking at Ouroboros Laos as a big theme for the ecosystem to bring to mainnet. What does that take to develop? Who wants to do that work? Who can do that work? Who's capable of doing that work? And then we'll be contracting, facilitating that through Intersect to make sure that happens. If indeed the community want it, right? We've got to vote for it. We've got to fund it from the Treasury. You know, the Treasury's got to pay for that if the community want it. And that will go through the on-chain part, end up off-chain, and then Intersect can facilitate that work to happen and make that sure the milestones are met and quality controls there and, you know, all that good stuff. And so we'll be sort of following what we've been doing already with continuity into 2025. And then sort of corresponding to that is this budget bit. So to deliver Ouroboros Laos, for example, we need to have a community approved budget. So what does that budget look like? And it's not just core infrastructure that will go into that budget, it's innovation. You know, what does Catalyst look like in 2025? Are there other innovation initiatives that we want to put into the budget? But also marketing, growth, research and development for future ideas into beyond 2025, because R&D can take longer than a year, you know, sort of thing. So we're looking at all of that as an annual budget process and sort of a proposal that members come together and shape, and then we propose that to the rest of the Cardano community to vote on chain and say, we have this, do we approve this budget? Okay, great, now it becomes constitutional. So that's tick box one. And now we have to do the treasury withdrawals with dReps, again, approving those treasury withdrawals. So there's lots of checks and balances on chain, which is important. Ultimately, though, Intersect is really here just to help this stuff happen, facilitate it, and get the work done. And importantly, members doing it, not any singular entity. So yeah, those are the three big focus areas for 2024, which is taking up a lot of time. And it's really exciting because it's all brand new. We haven't had to do this before. And I think that's the big learning curve for me, particularly as well, and I think the rest of the community.
Okay, yeah, I think there's a lot to break down in that, and I'm sure I've even missed some parts. I'll have to watch that back myself to try and take it all in. But just on things like, I suppose development is a big thing. We're looking at scalability with Cardano, and you mentioned Ouroboros Laos there, and Purus is another big one with finality and things like that. What is the approach for them now? If the community wants them done, is that IOG puts in a proposal, or is that Intersect puts in a proposal, or how do things like that work now with the structure that we have for governance?
Yeah, it's a good one, and I think there's a couple of ways to look at it. One is a bit more of a holistic look at it, which is Cardano is a permissionless blockchain, and I think that's a really important tenet that we have as a community and for the infrastructure that we all, while we're here, right? We believe in the permissionless system, and I think it's important to recognize that anybody can do any work that they want to do to Cardano. It's an open source project, and it's open for anyone to take that code base and add to it, right? But obviously there's funding arrangements and how and also capability. I think there's another thing as well. You know, who's actually capable of making commits to different code bases and bringing those features on chain. So what we're trying to do with Intersect is not have singular entities propose those things, only because it can add cumbersome admin and audits and loads of other things, and also maybe like duplication of work across different areas. And so the idea is that you could have consortiums. So you could have an argument that, let's say there's 15 or 20 developer firms as part of a consortium that together pitch to deliver Ouroboros Laos. And I can't put a number on it. I've got no idea how much it's going to cost to develop, but this argument
That's something I think a lot of people are waiting to see what that number is going to be. That number and the timeline, I think they both change each other, because if the number is bigger, it could mean a shorter term timeline, but then it's to get the balance.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting. Yeah, and what the price tag of it is, I think I look at it more of Cardano's, one of the principles of Cardano that's worked really well so far is the quality of the code, right? And quality is something that can take time, and I think that's playing out over course of history with Cardano at least is that we've got this 100% uptime on chain. We've had a very robust sort of incident response team and lots of interesting things that lean to the fact that sometimes these things take longer, but there's a really good reason for that. And so I feel like price sometimes is a secondary component, although I know it's hot, now with any treasury withdrawals are going to be hot topics, and we've seen that actually. I mean, I know you've seen it. Lots of different ideas and for how we should spend and utilize the treasury, and this is where it gets a bit controversial, but also quite interesting, like to see where we land as a community. Are we going to be really conservative at the beginning and only want to spend just enough to get those core features on chain and security, scalability, just those things? Or do we want to invest heavily and sort of spend now because the time's now? And that spectrum is pretty big. And I suspect we'll land obviously somewhere in the middle, as we always do with compromise, right? But yeah, this is what it's going to be like now. And I think the idea is that, yes, this tech development consortium with IOG, for example, but with all the other partners that I listed earlier, could come together and say, well, we want to deliver Ouroboros layers, we also want to deliver quantum resistance properties and other sort of things that might come out of research and development. And then we think it's going to cost ballpark here and here. Sometimes it's hard to put specific numbers on development stuff, because once you're 6 months down, you're like, oh, okay, we need to rebuild this particular cluster in a node or whatever. So that might take more time and more money, obviously, to do that. So we'll get that number out as part of this budget process, and that should come in the next 2-3 months, I think, before Christmas. This is the idea that we'd have this proposal that we could put forward to the community to say, okay, it's going to cost X to deliver Ouroboros layers, it's going to cost Y to deliver whatever, and then we vote on it and approve it. And then part of that, though, of course, will be a timeline. Like, how long is it actually going to take? And to be honest with you, I don't know how long it will take to bring on chain, but I know it's the next real big thing that we want to do. I get that feeling anyway. Seeing recent polls, that scalability is always really high on the list. So I suspect it will be like priority number 1 or 2 at least.
Yeah, I think scalability and even marketing comes up a good bit. For me personally, I push towards the scalability side. I think when you have better scalability, then the marketing can kind of help itself there as well. If chain is moving faster, you have more people coming in. But obviously maintaining the security, reliability that Cardano has had for years now is very important in that aspect. So it's always a balancing act. But with the different groups within Intersect, so you are looking at multiple different areas. Are them groups all volunteer based, or how does that work within, I suppose, within what is a members based organization, and then are everyone volunteers within it, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So everyone is volunteering. I mean, it should just be really clear. Yeah, everyone volunteers their time for nothing really, for very little back. So it's really impressive, actually. It's not. I'm humbled, but then again, I'm not surprised. But I know how this community rallies behind stuff, and I've been in this community since 2019, and before that, I was with Bitcoin, like in 2012, and then Ethereum in 2015. So I've sort of been around the space, but being in a professional capacity with Cardano now for the last 4 years, this community does surprise me in how much effort they put in for very little back, and I think that's it's demonstrated through Intersect so far. We've only been going a year, and we've got 7 core committees, over 30 different working groups, special interest groups that people are spending probably between 20 to 30 hours a month contributing to, which is significant amount of energy and time for no immediate incentive, at least direct incentive. So that's impressive. Whether or not that's sustainable and whether or not we need to think about different ways of incentivizing participation. The other way I look at it is that in a sort of open source way, you can contribute as much or as little as you like, and you should be able to dip in and dip out as and when you see fit, and that's quite important to feel like you can contribute when I want to in the area, the specific area that I like or I have skills in, and then I'll just come back and check in, and that's totally fine as well. So it's just depending on your own capacity and interests. But yeah, it's broad and it covers everything. Like going back to marketing, we've got a marketing working group at Intersect. They're drafting a proposal for marketing Cardano in 2025. So not marketing Intersect, marketing Cardano. And what we need to do that, what's our core KPIs? We can pick up some simple ones like increase transaction volume. Yeah, okay, cool. How do we then want to do that? And I do think, like you said, technology sort of brings users to it. It sort of puts a nice bow on parts of Cardano that like, okay, now this looks quite interesting. I'll come over here and maybe I'll build on Cardano now instead of something else. So that's good. But then that's also like longer arc stuff. The other thing is we just sometimes need end users, right? Don't necessarily always need builders to come here. We always need new blood, of course. That's like a important thing for us. I think the other thing I personally, at least without taking my Intersect hat off, I was in Japan last week, and I met a lot of government officials there, and they're looking to really adopt blockchain properly through the national services. And Cardano is particularly well placed there because obviously things started off and kicked off in Japan, and lots of the DNA of Cardano is rooted in this sort of Japanese way of doing things, like precision, and taking time to get it absolutely spot on. And so with that embedded culture from Cardano's early days, and then looking at what Japan wants to be in the future, I feel like there's some really interesting use cases for national public services for Cardano, and we can use partner chains for potentially some of that as well. And I think there's lots of interesting conversations there. Same thing goes for Argentina. They've got a pro-innovation government there, and I know there's lots of energy being expended for Cardano in that region. So super exciting from a national government perspective, but then of course enterprises and everything else, right? There's so much, so many different use cases and different personas, to use some like marketing slang. It's like that's loads of different people. We just need to think about what's the low-hanging fruit. How do we want to utilize marketing for Cardano in 2025, knowing what's also worked well and hasn't worked well in other ecosystems, like Polkadot, right? And we saw their treasury report came out a few weeks ago, and there was some I raised my eyebrows on some of the things. I know a few people did. I can't be overly critical of Polkadot because I feel like they started something, right? And they've also had their challenges with it, and we will have our challenges too. So we're not necessarily any better like that. We're still all humans behind this. So it's there's definitely respect there. However, there is clearly areas we can't spend like that, right? For Cardano, we've got to have really clear outcomes and KPIs and accountability and transparency to how we're tracking to that. And I think that's a big part of Intersect's role as well, not just to be transparent throughout everything we're doing, but have that auditing. And you can audit internally, which is fine, but we also need to be sure that we're not marking our own homework. So how do we take that out and have a third-party auditor looking at treasury spend, looking at our own spend, but then also looking at any other treasury spend that's happening? Intersect is not the only source of this of treasury spend because it's permissionless, really important. But could we be an effective place to utilize treasury spend in an efficient way? I'd like to hope so. And we'll see how that plays out, over the next few months.
Yeah, I think on the Polkadot thing, I know they got a lot of hate on different things, and there was some that were very questionable, some of the grants that were given out, but we definitely can learn a lot from that. And I seen there was at one point, can't remember who it was now, there was a lot of given out about someone who was deeply involved in Cardano governance, was looking at other chains, and people saying, oh, you should only be looking at Cardano. But I think if you're going to go one way or the other, you should be forcing people that have voting rights in Cardano to look at other chains, learn what they've done right, what they've done wrong, to hopefully let us skip some of it. We're going to make mistakes. That's just the way it's going to be. Like you say, even Intersect, it's something that's learning as it's going. A lot of it is new. So we have to learn, and paying attention to what has happened with others to try and learn some lessons and maybe skip some of them is a good thing. When it comes to funding, there's lots of different aspects for people building on Cardano now looking. So up to this point, Catalyst was where everybody really went to get funding. We now are going to have the possibility for people to look directly at the treasury. I did see on the Intersect website, there is people or members can apply for grants. I think there might have been one for stable coins a while back. How do the grants work there? Is that from Intersect or is that from the treasury, or what's the process there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you're right. Catalyst has been utilising the treasury for the past, I think, nearly 3 or 4 years now. They've been going, and they're about to kick off Fund 13 at the end of September. So that's exciting. Another 50 million ADA available. So that's cool. But just to be clear, actually, Intersect hasn't used any treasury money for anything as of yet. So with that's obviously a proposal that we may take to the community to say, do you like Intersect? And if you do so, some of our operating costs, are this. Would the Treasury be happy to pay for that? And that we'll have that open conversation with the community. When wait a few months. But in terms of our grants, they were really specifically orientated for certain tooling. So like the gov.tools, which is the place where you can register to be a dRep or delegate to a dRep, submit a governance action, a bunch of different things, essentially the one-stop shop for Cardano's governance. That was a grant that we recognized that we needed to develop this tooling. And this was sort of last year out of the SIP workshops that we ran across like 25 different SIP workshops. And it was the big theme was like, we need tools to do this stuff. And so Intersect kicked off, and then we identified, okay, right, out of our seed funding. So this is the sort of funding currently for Intersect, is the IOG and Emergo provided seed funding to Intersect to sort of bootstrap it, get it off the ground. And part of that seed funding included a small allocation for very specific key grants, focusing predominantly on tooling and some outreach and education, because actually you can build all the great tools, right? You can build all this governance systems and all the shiny stuff, but you've got to bring people to it, and people have got to understand how to use it as well in this new world. So education and awareness was also a big part of our grants program. But ultimately that's sort of now tapering off a little bit, because we've delivered gov.tools. It's now an open source project in full. It's under the Apache 2 license. So the idea is that anybody can come in, fork that code base for gov.tools, and be able to add features to it. But importantly, bring those features back to the original code so that we can maintain universal benefit for the code base. So that's done now, and members are maintaining that. So we've given a grant out recently to a member to maintain gov.tools for a period of time, and then that will go again out for future maintenance work. So that's part of our management of the repos. We have 60 plus repos at Intersect, including the core Cardano Haskell code bases. So I think there's like 40 plus for core Cardano, and then other code bases that we've got. So broadly speaking, our grants have been focused on like super specific things, initiatives funded directly from the seed capital that we were given from IOG and Emergo, and they're largely completed now or issued. And Catalyst has been maintaining sort of that growth and acceleration of innovation at the grassroots layer, as how I like to look at it, and building on Cardano, not building Cardano. And that's like another way of sort of looking at it.
Okay, and then when it comes to voting, Intersect does play a role in that too. You have one seed, there's multiple different layers on this probably, and we won't be able to get into how the whole voting governance works in this one, or we'll be here for a few hours, I think. But where does Intersect sit, and kind of what power does Intersect have or influence on the voting, and then how does that happen within the organization? I presume it's not just you decide, yeah, we're going to vote this way, and that's how it happens.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in that then, actually. So firstly, I think what you're getting at is the Intersect's constitutional role on the Interim Constitutional Council, a bit of a mouthful, the ICC. There were 7 members of that, as you sort of alluded to, and Intersect is one of those members. So our council, our individual council, making up that one vote, is made up of 10 members that were selected that applied and then were sort of confirmed in that 10-member body council. So me as Intersect, I have no decision-making powers over what the council decide. They'll look at the constitutionality of a governance action. For example, the Hosky governance action right now, to rename the next hard fork Hosky, is going through the mix, which is actually a really good test. Like, it's a bit of fun, and I know it's a bit of a testing thing for us. But ultimately, it's a good run. We've got to start looking at, like, how do we decide these things? How do we get together as a group? As Intersects just are one of 7. The other 6 members of the ICC need to get together as well and talk about it, and how do they want to vote on something that's obviously doesn't have any impact on chain, of course, but it's definitely a good test for starting to talk about these things. So that's Intersect. So yeah, from an on-chain role, the internal sort of we're an institutional seat. I should actually be clear about that as well. There are like some, limitations because we're an institutional seat. We have requirements to our regulatory bodies in the US, because we're based in Wyoming, and that's just fact. And we can't really get away from that, and nor that we should. But however, that being said, the 10-member body council, there's no professional staff that sit on that council. It is just the council of members, and then they will direct the Intersect team to vote on their behalf in the direction that they've agreed. So that's that. And then from Intersect's own governance, as a member-based organisation, yeah, we've got members have got to decide and shape the future. And the only way to really make that true, not just make it like sound good, is that you have to have elections to be appointed to committees. So that's happening right now. You can apply to join the 7 core committees. 50% of seats are available today to apply for, and then members will be voting on their preferred candidates in October. So that's and that's done by one member, one vote. Actually, this is quite interesting sort of counter dynamic to our state-based voting on chain. We've got one member, one vote, and that'll be interesting. I think that's also a nice way of making true the promise that members shape the future, because it sounds like a lovely marketing fluffy line, right? And I like saying it, but to say it, you've got to back it up with, okay, well, how are you doing that, right? And the one member, one vote, I think, is a nice sort of very clear, tangible way of saying this is how you can contribute at any level, and it doesn't matter if you're a whale or not. It doesn't matter. You're still on one member, one vote. So that's that, and then also there's 2 board seats available, just to add to that too. So members can apply directly to the governing board and essentially to become my boss, and members will vote on those 2 governing board seats, and then be part of the governing board for a year term, making the governing board a sort of 5-member person board in total. So yeah, members are very much like part of the decision making. They are integral to it all, because we're only a small team, so we have to lean into this in the right way with the right intentions, and wake up in the morning going, I'm definitely trying to do the right thing for the ecosystem, because Intersect is just one institution out of many, and we're not the first member-based organization. There's like alliances, collectives, associations like the DeFi Alliance, the Core Infrastructure CBIA Alliance. They've been going before Intersect started. So we're just sort of adding to that idea of a robust distributed network of decentralization from an institutional perspective. And a really good parallel, I know I'm going on a massive monologue here, a really good parallel is the internet, the governance of the internet. It's one of the best examples of decentralized governance of of infrastructure technology that has been going on for decades. And we've developed open standards, decentralized governance with the internet, multiple different institutions like IEEE, open source foundations for different operating systems, bunch of different players in that space that have made the internet today what it is. And okay, you can pick at stuff that maybe you don't like about it, or that's totally fine. But ultimately, it's demonstrated a way that you can govern technology at scale. And we're sort of really in the infancy part of this now. We've got some alliances, some MBOs, some associations, and lots of organizations. And as we start to move forward into 2025, 2026, the idea of this network state, digital nation concept, we have to have more of these organizations existing, contributing in the right ways, in the right places. Yeah, anyway, you sort of get the gist. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think the one member, one vote is a good way to have it within the organization, because anybody can join it. I know there's always calls for that Cardano voting should be like that, but that's a very hard one, I think, to do, because anybody, I could spin up, get a bit of software, spin up 1,000 wallets. Does that mean I have 1,000 votes? Or so I think in a proof of stake network right now, 1 ADA, 1 vote is still the best way for that. I know the whale argument and all that kind of stuff, but that's separate, I suppose. So I'm just watching the time here, and I want to get on to what do you see the future for Intersect, or how do you see it evolving? Will Intersect always be a part of Cardano governance, or where do you see the future of Intersect?
Well, I mean, personally, as again with the sort of without my Intersect hat on, because I don't want to sell Intersect too much. As an ADA holder myself, I just want to see resilience in the system, and I think that distributed way of doing things is makes sense. It's smart, and it's been done before, and it's like back to that internet sort of drawing parallels from that. For me, that's how we should do things here, and it shapes the future for the best. So with Intersect, if members want Intersect to be around, then it will be around, and that's ultimately what will happen. I think I'd like to think and like to say that I feel we're doing a lot of good work, and members have done a lot of good work, and that's been demonstrated through the successful hard fork. We've got incident response teams that we coordinate at the drop of a hat if we need to for anything network related, and we also have all of the product working groups and budget, everything that's sort of within Intersect, members doing stuff, talking about it, and it's open and inclusive. I think that's really important. None of it's closed shop. And how this evolves into the future is going to be pretty much unknown. I don't really know. None of us know in 5 years what this is going to look like. I'd like to think we're not the only organization, because back to that resilience perspective, we've got to have more. But where can we start, and how can we make it efficient, effective, transparent, inclusive, super participatory? All of the really good stuff. If we can just keep leaning into those principles, then Intersect should have a really positive role to play on the ecosystem for many, many years to come. And hopefully we're just building this resilience. As part of that journey, we're building up resilience everywhere else.
Okay, yeah, it sounds good. Look, I think we've given a fairly good overview. We said at the start we might do a deep dive into other areas another day. If people have questions on certain aspects or would like to see us do kind of a deeper session into different areas, let us know down below and we can follow up on that. But Jack, just for yourself, closing thoughts, anything we should have maybe looked at today, or things you think would be good to highlight for the community?
Yeah, I think maybe just a couple of things to look forward to would be a cool shout out. So delegation, dReps, big thing. We've obviously got, I think it's about 400 now dReps have registered on mainnet, which is amazing for being only a couple of weeks into Chang. But we need more delegation. So if you haven't delegated to dRep, do so. Go to gov.tools, have a look at the dRep directory, connect your wallet, delegate today, and get that done. And it's then you can just withdraw and move that delegation around as you see fit. Ideally, we want to get that up to a really good number, because in about 75 days, 80 days, give or take, we're going to hard fork into the next Chang upgrade, bringing forward the rest of the governance features on chain. And we need dReps to be in a really good place with a really good amount of delegation. So a good volume of dReps with a nice spread of stake across them would be ideal. But there is definitely a call to action for everybody in the ecosystem to do that work and delegate and find a dRep. Please do, or become one. Actually, you can be a direct voter. You don't need to delegate if you don't want to. So that's a big shout out. And then I think the last thing is have a read of the Constitution, have a read of the sort of guiding principles and baseline rules that are going to impact us all as ecosystem participants and ADA holders. So have a read of the draft, get involved in a workshop if you haven't done so already. And just start to really get involved. I just want people to get involved. That's all. It's a big call to action. Jump to Intersect, join us. You don't have to join. You can join for free just to get into the Discord and start playing around with working groups. Just get involved.
Yeah, I'll leave all the links down below that people need to get into the different groups or to follow up GovTools, things like that. And it's on my list. I need to get some tutorials out showing people how to interact and use GovTools as well. One final one, just to touch on something you said there, the second Chang hard fork and the number of dReps or the number of stake delegated to them, will that impact when the hard fork happens, or are the dates kind of preliminary set for that and it happens no matter what?
Good question. So the interim constitution that's on chain now stipulates that 90 days have to pass. So that's sort of the minimum threshold, that just a day threshold, not really a stake. SPOs and then the interim constitutional committee will look up following 90 days, will look at the amount of stake available to delegate to dReps and the volume of dReps, and they'll decide as a group, as SPOs and as the ICC, whether or not we should hard fork now or do we wait. So yeah, it's not up to me, and I don't know the KPIs we have to agree as a community what those KPIs should look like. There are some governance actions that require a certain amount of stake to pass. So there's indications on, well, maybe we should get a bit closer to this number, right? So that we can do things. But then equally, if you don't start something, then you can just keep pushing it, right? I mean, we saw a little bit of that with we had a 5-day delay to the Chang hard fork. I think you might remember that. We were meant to go on the 27th. We were trying to go on the 27th of August. We ended up going on the 1st because we had some exchanges that weren't quite ready yet, but also there was a few dApps, and so we thought, okay, well, give 5 more days. But until you set a date, until you've got that, like, okay, it's coming, it's on the horizon, then you sort of spur action and you spur some urgency. So it's a bit of a give and take type thing. But anyway, answer your question is, it's a bad answer, but it will be decided by the ICC and SBOs. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably more a numbers thing rather than a technical aspect that something has to be built in order to do it. So, Jack, thanks very much. I appreciate your time. I learned a lot about Intersect. Hopefully, people watching are the same. And as I said earlier, leave questions down below, areas you'd like us to look more into. The links for all the different things we covered today will be down below. I encourage everyone to go and explore it, get involved, even get into the Discord, look around the different groups that are there to see what they're working on, get some insights into it. You never know what's going to pique your interest. Maybe you do want to check in there, even as Jack said, maybe it's you're putting some time in now, you mightn't next week, but coming every so often to give a bit of an input, give a different perspective is always good to put in there. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new, give the video a like, share it out, let people know what is going on with Intersect. Jack, let's catch up again soon. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Speak soon.